It's on you, bro.
Okay, we'll just take a.
Okay, Swaggy and Sassy, what was it that you wanted to show me?
Grandpa, you said the Swaggy chain harnessed the power and spirit of the Negro Leagues, waiting for someone with the passion and determination to unlock it. Something amazing just happened. I think I activated the power. Yes, you should have seen him throw the ball like the legend Satchel Paige.
That's remarkable, Swaggy. You have the opportunity to carry on the legacy of thousands of talented players.
Whoa, I had no idea there were so many.
The Negro Leagues were filled with talent and resilience. It wasn't until recently that over 300 of those players were acknowledged in the Baseball Hall of Fame. There was Willard Brown, known for hitting the home runs. Ben Taylor, known as the best first baseman in the game. And there's Oscar Charleston, fearless, and could steal a base with ease.
Wow, that was amazing, Swaggy.
Just like that, Swaggy. You're embodying the spirit of these legendary players.
Hey, good afternoon. We're live. Minority Prospects owner Alexander White. I'm here with former MLB player, current trainer, guru, anything you want to call him, Marvin Freeman. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's a pleasure to be here, spread some of this pitching knowledge throughout, the nation. Whoever's involved in watching this, they definitely gonna learn a lot of things that they didn't know or get confirmation on the things that they already know.
Yeah, guys. So today is going to be Q&A. We're going to go through some questions. We're going to go through everything pitching while you got one of the guys who's training some of the best players in the country, man. Former Jackson State draftee, big leaguer. Tell if people don't know you, Marvin, tell them a little bit about your history real quick.
Okay, I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, where basketball is pretty much king. 6'7" height, raised in the inner city where everybody thought they was going to the NBA. I had aspirations of playing basketball until I ran against some of these dogs like Mark Aguirre and Terry Cummins and Hall of Famers that convinced me that I needed to do something else. So realizing that, I put a baseball in my hand. I grew up watching the Cubs and the White Sox. Used to rush home from school in 7th, 8th grade, watch the last couple innings of the Cubs game where I got a chance to see, players like Ferguson Jenkins. He's a Hall of Famer, was one of my heroes growing up. Big Lee Smith, just giving me a visual picture on if I see guys like me that did it, then that proved to me that it's not impossible for me to do it. So they kind of inspired me to go out and, work on my game, understand what they were doing so I can, impart those things in what I needed to do. I tell pitchers all the time, you want to find out how to be at the top of the game, find out what the guys at the top of the game are doing, and then see if you can incorporate some of the things that they do into your game. So, just leaving Chicago, going to college, I went to Jackson State University. I did get drafted in the 8th round out of high school by the Montreal Expos. They're the Washington Nationals now, for you guys that don't know. But, I always, wanted to have some type of evidence that I was going to be on the right track, and getting drafted just made me have, a little bit more confidence that the dream that I set out to have, it was attainable. But I knew coming out of high school, I wasn't ready to pursue a career playing baseball, and I had never even left Chicago. Haven't had a chance to be away from home, hadn't had a chance to really have that type of pressure of having to perform as a job. So I knew I wasn't ready to go to the pros. And sometimes, it's just a feeling that you have inside. Some guys think they're ready, some guys are not. So I chose to go to Jackson State University, and it's in the SWAC. So I knew that I would have people that look like me around. I was feeling real comfortable with my surroundings. I wasn't feeling like I was an outsider. Playing against other black people, other black players, gave me a sense of community. And, we'd always talked a lot of smack in Chicago growing up, and I heard they talk smack in the SWAC. So I was welcome when I got down there to blend right into where, I felt at home. Played at Jackson State for 3 years. Ended up going to Cape Cod, Massachusetts in the summer of '82. And Cape Cod was one of the most still is one of the most prestigious summer ball leagues for like the top college players.
Yep.
And so, just going there from Jackson State, everybody's wondering like, why, what you doing out here? And my whole attitude was like, I'm getting ready to show you what I'm doing out here. End up making the Cape Cod League All-Star team, went 7-1, pitched phenomenally, went back to Jackson State for my junior year. I was a preseason All-American after the things I'd done in that league. Ended up going in the second round with the Phillies, 1984. Played a year and a half in the minors, made it up to the big leagues in September 1986. Had my big league debut against the 86 Mets, who ended up winning the World Series that year. I pitched a one-hitter over 7 innings and got my first major league victory. And during that game, my daughter Paris was born in the 4th inning. So I got my first major league win. My daughter was born. Life was good, man. I was like on cloud 9.
Yeah.
But moving ahead, played with the Phillies for 6 years. And then just was like not really making any progress in my career, up and down, going back and forth. Got a chance to pitch against the Braves one year in 1980. It was 87 in AAA. I threw a no-hitter against the Braves in AAA. And I guess the Braves was like, well, why is this guy still in the minors? So they traded for me. Ended up going to the Braves, played 3.5 years with the Braves, played 3 years with Colorado. Colorado, I still got the record for the lowest ERA in for a single season, 2.80. I'm hoping that record stays as long as it has been, because it's been 30 years since I established it in 1984
Sure.
or 1994. And so, it don't look like it's getting any easier to get outs there. So I'm feeling pretty good about holding on to that.
For sure.
Once I retired from baseball in 1998, I ended up going back to Chicago, coached high school varsity baseball for 10 years, coached a little bit of independent pro ball. And I started Freeman Baseball, a pitching academy, after I coached high school, because I just felt like I wasn't reaching enough pitchers. Because on a high school team, you're lucky if you got 5 guys that can actually, call themselves pitchers. But I found myself helping guys on the other team while I'm in the third base coaching box, giving signs to our players. So I give the hit and run, and I'll tell the pitcher on the opposing team, hey, you flying open, man, because I want to see good baseball.
For sure.
I want to see everybody succeed, whether it was on my team or the other team. I want to see guys bring out the best of their opponent, and the opponent bring out the best of my guys. And, if everybody's out there and they're on the top of their game, then the best man is going to come out on top. So that was my motivation for coaching. And I've been coaching MLB Develops youth baseball program for the last 10 years. Just been really spreading my knowledge around as much as I can, because I know that pitching is really hard. It's a hard position. It carries a lot of responsibility. It carries a lot of preparation. Most guys think that it's just, if I throw hard, I'm going to be successful. I've lived that road. I found out that road is, not as easy as people think it is. And so I started to, incorporate the things that I learned over a 10-year major league career and the things that I learned from coaching over 25 years. And I'm trying to blend those two things together to be able to communicate with the pitcher in a way that he knows that I'm out there with him. He knows that I've been through this battle. He knows that I've failed. He knows that I've succeeded. And so that trust factor is there. And so the things that I say, it kind of holds a little bit more weight because they know it's something that I'm not making up. It's something that I've lived, and it's something that I'm trying to share.
No, you got a vast array of knowledge. You've been coaching some of the best guys who've coming up now. Taj Bradley, Tink Hintz, Marquise Grissom Jr., Mark Church. A lot of those guys from the Atlanta area, but surrounding areas like Tink Hintz. As through this episode right here, we're going to talk about from starting from the bottom to the top. So kind of wanted to first ask you a question. With all these guys, it's not many blacks that's coaching. I mean, not that's pitching at a high level, especially when you look at high school baseball, just in general around the country. When you talk about college baseball, not just seeing a lot of blacks pitching, but in your arsenal, you got 6 guys that made it to big league camp. What do you contribute that to with these 6 guys? I know the training is A1 that you're giving them and the knowledge, but what traits are these guys having that you feel is moving them up the ranks pretty fast?
Well, the number one factor that I can point to is that they all compete. I mean, they don't back down from any situation. You got to be a competitor to be good at this position. Then you have to be able to understand the things that's going to help you fix your flaws, self-correct. A lot of times guys are always waiting on somebody to tell them how to do it right. These guys get the information, they work on it, they have that competitive nature, the work ethic is off the charts, and then they all can kind of bounce off each other's own energy. So I think that's probably been one of the biggest factors that's been overlooked, is that these guys are all buddies, they're friends, they're all from the same area. One sees another one having success. And it kind of goes back to what my opening comment was about seeing somebody like you do it, lets you know that you can do it as well.
Sure.
And so when they see guys like, you failed to mention that Michael Harris was one of my pitchers too. And he was, I was sure he was going to go as a pitcher. Cam Collier, he was one of my pitchers too. 95 miles an hour guys, but they got that bat, they got other things, but they all learned that being able to think, comprehend, and execute not only helps on the mound, but it helps in every phase of baseball. So all these guys understand the things that I was trying to get across to them, because I try to explain things in a way that's simple but complex, because the complexities, they're going to always be there, but sometimes people make them so complex, you don't really understand what it is that they're trying to get you to fix for yourself. So just making sure these guys understand, how to go from point A to point B is critical. But I think the contributing factor with all of them is that their work ethic and the way that they compete, man, is at an elite level.
Yeah, I would have lost $1 million, man. I think I was in the Braves outfield or something, doing something with the Braves, and they drafted Mike Harris as a hitter. I said, impossible. He was so dominant, man, in high school ball on the mound. It was just ridiculous. But at the end of the day, he was a competitor. He's a dog. He was going to be successful. He pitched or hit it. He can pitch right now. If I thought he could pitch, if he would have went in as a pitcher for the Braves, I think he would.
No doubt. They might run him out there. I was hoping that they run him in there on one of them blowout games, just let him do a little touch and feel. But you got a guy like that in the outfield, you can't take a chance on him the mound doing something dumb.
No, he can't blow it. So let's get into this, man, so we can get this quality, this information out. I know first thing we want to talk about is pitching versus throwing. Like you said, right now, if you look at all the training and all the videos, everything is about velo. Everybody want to hit, 99, 100, 92, or whatever it is. They want to get into the 90s and show velo. What are your thoughts on that? And, how can kids understand that velo isn't everything. You got to be able to pitch before you have velo.
Well, you know, I like to use this analogy right here. I said velocity. If you like equating that to going over to somebody's house, velocity is your invitation. That's gonna get you the looks. That's gonna get you drafted. The pitching is gonna keep you in the house.
For sure.
Pitching is gonna allow you to come in and put your feet up on the table, stay a while, move around at your own pace, do things for a long period of time before you being asked to leave. So you see so much stuff out here based on how can I throw harder? What can I do to get, you know, more velocity? These are some of the questions that I hear all the time when I'm getting ready to work with a new pitcher. I always ask them what it is that they want most out of coming to see me. And the majority of them always kind of beat around the bush and say, I want this, that, and the other. But when it gets back down to it, every single one of them wants to throw harder. And I get that. You know, velocity helps you make more mistakes and get away with them against average hitters. Now, as you facing some guys that's hitting velocity every day, then 95 don't mean nothing if it's right down the middle. So pitching is about deception. Pitching is about your ball moving late, moving when it's approaching the strike zone. The brain is funny because people always saying you got to watch the ball into the bat, but it's been proven that from 10 feet out, you're actually losing sight of the ball and your brain is recalculating where the ball starts to where it's going to end up. So that's where you're swinging. Most of the time when you see a guy swinging, he don't see the ball hit the bat. His head might be down, but it's almost physically impossible to see the ball hit the bat. And so if you can incorporate late movement when it's getting right around that dirt area in the strike zone with 3 pitches, I always like to work with a 3-pitch mix because most guys think they got 5 or 6 pitches, but the coach only gonna call 2, so you really only got 1. And but pitching, regardless of what your velocity is at any level, pitching is gonna get you on the field. Every coach wants a guy that can throw strikes, get outs, work quickly, save his staff from, you know, running a guy out there that's going to throw 100 pitches in 4 innings, and then now that dude ain't no more good to you. But if you look at, you know, the way things are going in baseball where this chase for velocity has come about in the last 10 years, you see the skyrocketing injuries in elbows and Tommy Johns that's occurred because most times that's what everybody is focusing on in their development. And I get it. I mean, look, I'm not going to be the one to tell you you can make it to the big leagues throwing 85. You know, that day might be behind us. For sure. Because that's just not the way they evaluate now. But if you make it to the big leagues, you're throwing 95 and you know how to pitch, you can still get guys out once you get there throwing 85, 90, changing speeds off of that, getting guys out. And you never know how long your career is going to last once you get in the door. My whole thing was I don't want to just get drafted. I want to make it to the big leagues and play for an extended amount of time. And the only way I'm going to do that is to be healthy and get out on the field. And if I'm just focusing max effort, every pitch I throw, that's going to lead me to a short career.
No, for sure. I know you talked about grips, and I know we have people in the comments asking, what can you demonstrate your pitch arsenal or just the pitches you train, just in general, the grips of those pitches like fastball, 2-seam, 4-seam, curveball, etc.?
Okay, so most of the time I'm really trying to make sure that the pitcher has the seams. You see a lot of times guys, their fingers are a little bit high, so they can't rip or create the kind of spin on the seams that's going to allow their ball to create the kind of rotation that they need. So the first thing that I do is I make sure that they're playing catch and they got their fingers on the seams so they can get backspin. Once you're playing catch with backspin, you can start to identify different things that you're doing in your mechanics. Like if I'm falling off toward first base as a right-hander, that's going to put me on the side of the ball. So now that backspin is going to turn into side spin. The side spin is going to make my ball move arm side. So you hear a lot of guys say, well, my ball is running up and in, and I don't know why. First of all, your mechanics are not letting you get in the right position to get out in front and create backspin. That's on my fastball. It's certain pitches that you want to kind of pull across your body on. Like for me, my slider was probably the pitch that I had the most confidence in any situation, because I knew I had to be under control with my body to get to a position where I can finish it and create the right spin that was going to help me throw it for a strike. On a fastball, you can get a little impatient. You can get a little jumpy. You can start flying out there, and you can still catch up to throw a fastball somewhere in the strike zone. But the key is being able to locate those pitches in different quadrants of the strike zone. So if I know a guy is looking inside for a fastball and I'm trying to throw it down and away, but my mechanics are making me get on the side of the ball, which is going to make it have side spin, and this ball is going to move back into the area that he's looking into, he's probably going to get a real good swing or better swing than if I can locate it in a position that was going to be to my advantage. So on my fastball, I'm trying to stay behind it, trying to get backspin, and I'm trying to throw it downhill. That's my four-seam fastball. My two-seam fastball, I'm going to hold the ball where the seams are running the closest together, and the focus is my index finger. My index finger on the seam to try and create this type of release. So it's coming off my hand with like a corkscrew spin moving down and in on the righty. But it's not going to go down if I don't start it down. So if I'm starting it down, my fingers are going to be on top. It's going to come off my index finger. I'm going to get this type of rotation, and that's going to make the ball go down. Everything you do with a baseball that has to do with movement is physics. And so the grips, you know, they can vary from pitcher to pitcher.
For sure.
It's the spin that you're trying to create to make the ball move. So my two-seamer is doing this. My four-seamer is doing that. My slider is doing this. And then I do a split. To lefties, I will get on the side of it, and it will go more, it'll be more lateral. And to righties, I try and stay through it so it can go straight down. That's it. I wanted to focus on mastering those three pitches. I want to focus on how to throw them in strike counts or in counts where I was up in the zone, where I was up in the count, where I can like play around with the strike zone. And that's what command is. A lot of people think control and command is the same thing. Control means I can throw all these pitches for strikes. Command means I can throw you a strike with it, and then I can throw you one that looks like a strike that ends up a ball. So if I got three pitches, I can put my four-seam fastball down and away, up and in. I can put my two-seam fastball, let it run down and in, then I can backdoor it. Then I can throw my slider, one that breaks straight down, one that breaks across, and I got a split. I got 10 different varieties of pitches that you got to contend with as a hitter.
For sure.
So you can't just lock in and say, okay, this dude throwing hard. He can't hit a spot. He throwing it right down the middle. I missed the first one. I'm going to start a little bit sooner on this one and catch him out in front. That's why, guys, trust me, a fastball alone, and I say this all the time. If you're in pro ball, a fastball alone will get you sent home, because you can't survive throwing all fastballs to guys that's getting paid to hit the fastball.
For sure.
So you definitely got to have a variety of pitches and all those things. The variable is that when you're working on your bullpens, that's when you find out what pitches are going to be effective, and the ones that aren't effective, you find out why. Do
we want to break down your ABCs of pitching via video, or how you want to do that, Marvin?
Yeah, you know what? Let's use the video, because
Okay.
that way you can kind of get a better illustration of what I'm talking about, from
Okay.
the load to the drive to the finish and then to the follow through. So if we start this right here, when I lift my leg up, you can see, just pay attention to my head. When I start lifting my leg up, you can go ahead and run it. You can see how my head is not going back, so I'm not rocking back. I'm getting into my back leg. My front leg is turning my hips in. Now, my first move is not going to be to fall, but my first move is to get down into my back leg. Now, as I'm starting down, I want you to kind of stop it at around 3 more clicks from there. So you about right there. Stop it right there. So now, when you see I'm sitting down into my back leg, I'm still in a position where my lead shoulder is going to have to start to move, and then it's going to have to come up as I'm getting into my foot strike, and that's going to put my arm in a position to work down the slope of the mound, because being 6'7", if I'm throwing the ball straight to the catcher, it's probably going to ride up and in and get away from me because I'm going to push it. So I got to develop an angle. So start it up again. So as I'm going to the plate, then you can see how my lead arm, my hands are breaking below my waist. My glove is going to get up into a position. You can see my front shoulder is, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm not pointing my shoulder at the target. It's the back of my shoulder that's going to the target. Now, as I'm getting into the drive, look at my back foot. My heel stays down. So when I drive out of this, you can see how my ankle kind of lays down right. One more click forward, and right there. Now, my heel didn't rotate up. I'm still driving. It's almost like I'm taking the rubber and I'm pushing it back towards second base. So that propels my upper body forward. So as I'm getting into foot strike, and my lead arm is going to make me pull down, it's not pulling toward first. It's actually moving my head into the catcher's mitt. So when I throw downhill, my trunk gets over my front side. Go ahead and roll it. Trunk gets over my front side when I'm working downhill. You can see when I'm getting my foot down, my landing knee stops going forward when my chest starts going forward. And so that's that kinetic chain reaction that I have by hitting the brake, and that's bringing my arm forward. So once my leg plants, look how my arm lays back. That's the energy being built up from that braking action. And then now I'm able to get up over my landing leg, channel all that energy from my lower half up through my trunk, down to the ball and out to the plate as I follow through. And I'm trying to stay down in my finish so I can continue to get more extension out to the catcher and get a little bit closer to him. And then I go ahead and follow through. So, everybody's going to move slightly different. But 3 things that a pitcher has to do: he has to be under control when he starts. He has to create a drive phase that's going to start to build up energy in his legs, so when the weight transfers, he can get that energy to work its way up through the torso and out through the throwing arm. And then you got to be able to follow through and repeat a finish. Because if you can't repeat your finish, that means you're going to be erratic with your control. Most of these things have to work off timing, and your rhythm and timing for each individual is going to be different. Some people are a little quicker at the beginning. Some of them have to be a little bit slower. For me, I had to be a little bit slower because I got my levers are long, my arms and legs are a little bit longer. So I got to make sure that everything is gathered so I can get myself in the right positions to get to a finished position. And look, these things, I was still tinkering with my delivery from day one in the big leagues to the last day as I had some miles on me and I got to be 34, 35 years old. I was going to move a little bit differently. But you have to understand who you are as a pitcher. Most of the things that I do, some people can't do. And a lot of things other pitchers did, I couldn't do. I know when I first came up, I tried to imitate Doc Gooden because Doc Gooden was a monster on that mound. 19 years old, 300 strikeouts. He went like 24-3, Rookie of the Year, Cy Young. He did all of that at 19. And I'm 23, and I'm like, man, this dude can do it. I can do it too. But, the genetics are different. We got different approaches. He's slightly different in some of the things he does in his mechanics. So me trying to be him didn't help me. It wasn't until I figured out what I needed to do to be successful to help me become the pitcher that I was based off who I am, not off somebody else. And like I said earlier, most of the time, pitchers can get a lot of information just by watching other guys and tinkering with stuff and trying stuff in the outfield and asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask another pitcher, hey, man, how you hold that? What are you thinking right there? What do you do at the end? Because we want to help each other. It's just like a fraternity, because we know how lonely it gets on that mound, man, when things ain't going your way. You looking for any advice that you can get that's going to help you become better.
What are some tips that you feel? I know the biggest thing in pitching, especially in just watching games, is helping to throw strikes. What is the biggest thing you see that hinders kids from throwing strikes?
Again, the timing, the rhythm of how they move won't allow them to repeat their finish. And so not even having the practice habits of throwing bullpens on a regular basis, not really understanding what you do when you do make a mistake on a regular basis. And when I say a regular basis, you have to have scheduled bullpens in between outings. It's hard to be a guy that plays two positions and you dedicate most of your time to your everyday position and hitting, and then pitching occasionally. Now, some guys are just good athletes. They gon', just like some guy hear a song, he can dance. Some guys hear that same song, he got to practice that dance. And so that don't mean he's not going to get the dance, but he might have to work on it a little bit more to perfect it. And so I see too many bullpens being thrown at maximum effort without acquiring a feel or understanding of what needs to go on when you make a mistake. If you're throwing a pin and you throw every pitch for a strike, I mean, where's the work? You just out there staying in your rhythm. But most guys, when they start throwing balls or they start getting a little wild, two factors that I pointed to. First, the functional strength in their legs is not where it needs to be. And then second, they start playing with their own thoughts.
For sure.
Most of the time, and I've been through this before because I walked a ton of guys when I was a freshman at Jackson State. And my whole thought process was like, oh man, 3 balls. I don't want to walk this guy. You end up walking him because of the negative thought that I just put in my head, as opposed to telling myself, okay, I missed up and in last time. That ball's flying out my hand because I'm flying open. I'm not creating a spin. So instead of me giving myself some constructive advice on how to fix it, I'm trying to cheer myself into not making the same mistake again. And it's like saying, hey, I don't want to make a mistake, but you're going to make the mistake, as opposed to saying, I'm going to get on top, I'm going to throw this ball down to the target, and I know where it's going. When you're sure about what you're doing based off the practicing and the things that you've worked on, it just builds the kind of confidence that keeps you from, sinking into despair when things start going wrong, start worrying about things that you can't control, umpire squeezing me on that pitch, this dude talking stuff from the side. I don't have a focus on what I'm doing based off what I've practiced. And so these things all kind of snowball into when you get on the mound and you start throwing balls, you don't understand how to fix it. So most of this stuff happens when you're not prepared and you don't have an understanding of how your body works and how to move.
No, it makes sense. So basically what you're telling them is you got to practice on it. You just can't put a guy out there and expect him to throw strikes. And if you start struggling, you tell them the big thing, bend your back or whatever. They got to be went over and has been explained what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So if possible, can you give say if I have a Friday night starter right? What are those days leading up? So say if he's gonna pitch Friday and the day is the Saturday before, what do those 7 days look like before they start?
Okay, so I'll just take it from one start and then
Yep.
bring it back around.
Yeah.
Okay, so I pitched Friday. Let's say I pitched say I pitched 5 innings. I did okay. My control was a little suspect. You know, I was struggling with my breaking ball, but I made it through. I got some outs. You know, I'm not feeling bad about myself, but I know I have to have an idea of what I got to do to make myself better. So that next day, which is the day after I pitch, I'm probably gonna be sore. Probably gonna have to work that soreness out. So I would do a lot of endurance running. I'd probably run 45 minutes. Most of the time it gets a little boring when you run in foul poles, but I'm thinking about just moving my body, sweating. It don't have to actually be on the field. It could be anywhere where you can move for 45 minutes, treadmill, track. You could run around, the stadium or whatever. Run around, get loose, maybe do some stretching. Not going to do a lot of throwing the next day because I still want to let my arm recover a little bit. And then on that Sunday, I'll get to the park. I'll get I'll get stretched by the trainer, go out, do some sprints and some, maybe run a few poles. And then I'll play a little light catch, just working the arm, exercising the arm, trying to get full range of motion back. All these times I'm doing this, I'm still thinking about what I'm trying to work on based off what I did my last start. So when I'm even playing catch at an easy pace, I'm still trying to make sure my body is under control. I'm still trying to get the right spin in the rotation, even if it might be at 50% effort. I'm just really reminding myself over and over and over again, every time I get a ball in my hand, that there's something that I have to do with every pitch as opposed to just throwing and just with no thought process whatsoever. Okay, so now it's that was Sunday, it's Monday.
Yeah.
Monday, I'm gonna get my side work in. My first side session is everything that I throw is gonna be out of the stretch. I'm probably gonna throw, five fastballs away, 5 fastballs inside. I'm gonna just drop in 5 breaking balls, make sure my body is loose, make sure my alignment is straight, watch the location of the ball, pay attention to the actual ball flight. If I'm trying to throw the ball outside from a righty and it's drifting back over the plate, make some adjustments based off what I see. That's why if I'm throwing to a Rapsodo or a TrackMan or a radar gun, I can kind of, I can see what the actual ball is doing, and I don't really want to throw where my velocity is being measured because that's going to make me start doing things that I'm not trying to do, especially between starts. And I truly believe that if you can move slow under control and still locate, you can always speed that process up. So I throw my little bullpen. Then after that, I do my running, do a little weights. I try not to lift a lot of weights during the season, just do some lower half stuff. I do a lot of stretching, try not to ice as much. Only time I ice if I felt something in the joint, my elbow or in my shoulder, I would ice that. But if it's just muscle soreness, I would make sure I'm getting the rub down and just keep my body warm. I always wear a sweatshirt on because I don't want that. I want to keep the muscles warm because they loosen up faster. And then that Tuesday, depending on how early it is in the season, maybe throw like a little feel and touch off the mound, maybe up in front where the catcher's behind the plate, but I'm up in front, just trying to exercise my arm, get my body to work. And then the day before I pitch, not do a lot, just really kind of focus on what I was going to be doing in the game. But during those bullpens, if I struggled on something in the game, that was my focus when I was throwing. After I threw my 5, and then 5, I would work on trying to make sure that I had a really good feel and understanding of why my pitchers weren't doing what they needed to do. And so those things are at a pro level. Now, a high school guy, he might be your number one shortstop. He might be your 3-hitter. He might be the best player on your team and your best pitcher. So he might be an offensive weapon that you can't, he only pitching once or twice. He might be pitching on a Friday, and then he won't pitch again until the next Friday, unless you're in the playoffs. So you got to kind of modify your routine around your actual build of your team. And so if you got a lot of pitcher-only guys, you can have a more stricter routine, but you still have to find a way for the younger pitchers, the pitchers that's in your lineup every day to get their work in as well. So if that means hitting your shortstop in the first or the last group so they can get their bullpens in, those things are important as well. But you got to get that midweek bullpen in to it's just like batting practice. You don't go a season without taking BP and then just show up at the game and your timing and everything is going to be on point. These are things you got to keep grinding and feeling things that you need to be doing so that you can take those things into the game and feel comfortable with it when you're competing with it.
Yeah, we're going to jump into some questions right after. It's one thing that stood with me when I heard you speak. It was at something earlier, but you talked about how did you warm up? Say you're going into the game, right? You're on the bench, 7th inning, whatever. They bringing in Marvin Freeman to close the game or bridge the game, whatever it is at this point, what they call it. How did you warm up in the bullpen? And once you got on that mound, what you talked about going 100 just to see how it go. How did you warm up when you got onto the field?
So this is as a reliever
or a bridge or whatever you coming in the game.
So other than being a start, because it's two different approaches for being a starting pitcher. You know when the game is going to start. You know when you're going to throw. As a reliever, you got to pay attention to the game. You got to know how the flow of the game is going. You have to know what your situation is and what particular part of the game you're going to be used in, so that if you see, let's just say, for instance, I'm the 7th, 8th inning guy, and I know that the starter, and I was behind some starters, man, in Atlanta, that most of the time I didn't even take my street clothes off. I just kept my street clothes on under my uniform with Glavin and Maddox and John Smoltz out there. They go on 8, 9 innings almost every time out. But you can see the flow of the game. If they getting in trouble, they struggling to make it through the middle part of the game, then about the 6th inning, I get up, I start just stretching down in the bullpen, anticipating maybe I'm going to be in this game. But then when I saw that, the manager would call down and be like, get Freeman up, and I know that the 3rd hitter is a right-handed batter and I only got maybe 2 hitters to get loose with, I would just play like it's almost like a crow hop long toss catch. I would take the weight we had like a heavy ball. We didn't throw it. It was like 4 or 5 pounds. And I would do a lot of arm exercises to kind of pump up blood in my shoulder to make me get loose faster. And then I would throw maybe like 10 balls in front of the mound where I was like just taking a step and throwing. And then when I got on the mound, I would try to work on keeping the ball down, throw all fastballs. Then I throw the pitch that I'm going to probably throw to the first hitter that I'm facing. And I know if I see the manager walking out, and Bobby had a slow walk, so by the time he started in the dugout and he made it to the mound, I could probably get about 5 or 6 more pitches. And then I knew when I got in the game, I was going to get my 7 pitches on the mound. So over the course of your career, you got to find out how much throwing you need. I see a lot of guys taking way, way, way too long to get prepared to go pitch. And I think it's just mental. I think they think the more that they throw, the more that they can kind of rehearse and get practice, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes you're going to be called upon to get ready in a hurry. So you got to have a couple different routines. But after about 15 pitches, I was ready to face a hitter. So that just comes from, again, anticipating, knowing when to stretch, making sure you stretch the right muscles, and then taking it out there with the belief that the things that you worked on a daily basis is the stuff that you're going to be focused on. Because sometimes you'll be in the game and your arm can be hanging. I pitched 5 games in a row. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get through this inning. So it went back to me saying, I got to make pitches. I got to keep the ball down. I got to work ahead in the count. And these are the things that's going to help me get this guy out. So, it's a game where it's a long season, and from outing to outing, you're going to feel different. So you better have a thought process that's going to allow you to pitch.
We're going to take one of the questions. It's a question that everybody asks. How soon, just seeing you, working with younger pitchers, how soon should they start throwing curveballs?
That varies from pitchers, from their talent levels, their strength levels, how they move, what kind of fundamentals that they have with their mechanics. Most guys, if they can command their fastball, they can throw their fastball for strikes on both sides of the plate, and they got a changeup that they can throw for strikes, and they got a good solid foundation. There's nothing wrong with trying to spin the ball, but I like to have them start like maybe a year before they go to 60 feet, 6 inches. And I know that's like, 13, maybe 14 years old. A lot of these guys are pitching in tournaments, man, where you got a 12-year-old that can't hit a breaking ball, but then you have a 12-year-old that can throw a breaking ball. What pitch you think the coach is going to call the most?
Keep calling the curveball.
He's going to keep calling it, because now that lessens the chance for the fielders to make errors. Pitcher going to strike everybody out. But what's happening is, to be able to throw, which everyone wants to throw a fastball, you got to throw more fastballs. But if you can't command them, now you're just throwing them down the middle. And like I said earlier, everybody at every age wants to hit the fastball. So I say that when a pitcher, first of all, his hands have to be big enough to manipulate the spin. His legs have to be strong enough to support his body where he can finish. And then he's got to have an idea of, how to spin the ball and still be under control. So those ages vary, man. But through my experience, it's usually around 13, 12 if they're advanced, 13, but I'm seeing them younger and younger throwing breaking balls. And, what can you do when I see a guy that's throwing a breaking ball and he's doing it wrong? I just try and educate him on what the hazards may be. I don't tell kids what they can't throw, although I recommend things. But I know when they're away from me, they're going to do what's going to get them outs anyway.
For sure.
So the main thing I do is just inform them on some of the pros and cons, let them know, what they could do better at it. And then, hopefully that the parent is smart enough to monitor that action when they're actually playing in games where they see their son throw 10 curveballs in one inning. Somebody got to, have a little sidebar with the coach or something, just let them know that, look, we understand we're trying to win, but my son is 11 and 12 years old. I want him to be pitching at 18. So we got to have some type of development with this fastball as well.
When we talk about pitching and setting up hitters and different things that I know you talk about and teach a lot, even with your major league guys, and talk about how to, that pitch need to be here and this pitch need to be here. Can you explain a little bit on a pitch sequence, just to you can give any type of batter that you would do just in general?
Well, yeah, every time I faced a guy for the first time, depending on he was a right-hander or left-hander, and most of the time these kids don't have scouting reports. Sure. They're not pitching at a major league level. So sometimes I have to catch myself and realize that some of the things that I say may be a little bit
for sure
too advanced. So I always say every young pitcher should learn how to get the ball down and away. If you haven't seen a guy ever throw you a pitch and he can command down and away, that's going to do two things. it's going to either make the hitter go out there after it or make him move up on the plate. If he moves up on the plate, that means he's telling you he don't believe you're going to come inside. And so now this is going back to having command. If I'm throwing a pitch this far off the plate and the guy pulling it, that means he's already made the outside corner down the middle. So that means the inside corner is going to be on his knuckles. And if I can't throw it there, I don't have the confidence to throw it there without hitting him, then he's already won. Because once you cut the plate in half, which is 17, you cut it down to 8, 9 inches, that's the barrel. So you got to be able to miss barrels. I know guys got this saying now, yeah, I got 4 barrels today. I'm like, you 0 for 4. And they'd be happy just hitting the ball hard. I'm like, I'll take 27 line drives right at somebody. I got a perfect game. So I look at results. If I got a guy and I jam him and he bloops it over the first baseman's head, he won that. If he hit a ball hard, I won that if it's an out. But getting back to my point is, if you know a guy can handle the outside pitch, you got to be able to pitch inside. If you can work ahead in the counts, you can start guys off with breaking balls. You can start guys off with changeups. But none of these things work if you can't command those pitches, if you can't throw them for strikes. The one thing that I really try and tell guys is to understand what the counts are going to create.
For sure.
If you going up there, 0-0 is a hitter's count. So in a hitter's count, you look in middle in, something you can do a lot of damage with. And I just had this conversation with some of the professional hitters down in Arizona, just talking about, do you guys ever come up looking to hit first pitch breaking ball for a strike or fastball away? And every last one of them said, if you make that pitch first pitch, okay, I'll give you that one. Okay, so if you're going to give me strike 1, that means I only got to get 2 more. But if you looking to do damage and I just trying to get ahead with a fastball middle in, you sending me over the fence. You're going to send me in the gap somewhere. So having an understanding that 0-0 is a hitter's count, and if I can get strike 1, I've already got an advantage. And these are numbers that, everybody want to look into analytics. But if you can get strike 1, not throw first pitch strike, get strike 1. That means if he pulls it foul, he takes it, whatever. You get first pitch strike, you're going to get yourself in a higher percentage of getting the guy out. And if you can get the first hitter out, you're in like a 30% chance of them scoring versus the first hitter getting on is like a 70% chance. So those are the numbers that I like to play with. I don't care if you got a 3,000 spin rate and you bouncing your breaking ball. I don't care if you're throwing 96 and it's over the backstop, because those pitches are not going to give you good results. Now, if you got 96 on the black and you got a 3,000 spin rate slider that you can paint with, just start getting your checkbook ready. You're getting ready. You're finna fill up your account. So the main thing that I want to make sure that guys understand is, even though we're paying more attention to the analytics, the numbers that you have to pay attention to is staying out of the 2-0, 3-1 counts, trying to get hitters in 0-2, 1-2 counts, because the averages in those counts are going to yield way lower batting averages than the other ones. And so if you can keep your pitch count low by attacking, my motto is try to get them out on 3 pitches or less. And it always starts with strike 1. And when you throw in strikes, you can be creative. So there is really no script of what you're trying to do, because the way that the guy reacts to the pitch is supposed to tell you how to get him out. He's telling you how to get him out by the way he reacts to a pitch. If I throw a curveball and you pull it foul home run, you looking for that pitch. So now I got to start thinking, okay, he's sitting on something, so he's covering everything that's off speed. Let me see if I can jam him, and then I can go back to my off-speed pitch. So I've always been a guy that likes to use instincts, and a lot of these instincts have been taken away from pitchers because, first of all, they haven't proved that they can throw strikes when they're throwing their bullpens. And second, they don't know what to throw in the game when they get ahead because they don't have any control to call their own pitches. And most catchers, especially young catchers, are going to call the pitch that they don't want to hit in that situation. And so, we've lost a lot of creativity with letting pitchers just go out and do their thing because, again, the sandlot ball is no longer there. You don't see a lot of guys just playing in the neighborhood. Every game is got to be adult supervision. You don't see kids just out playing on themselves, having fun, being their favorite player that they saw on TV. That's how we grew up learning the game. We imitated our favorite players in sandlot ball and street ball and stuff like that. And, when you get in the game, you just doing the things you saw your pro guys do, but you understand that you've worked on it so much that you feel comfortable with it. So, again, the scripted pitching and having a formula, everything starts with strike one. So if you can get strike one, whatever pitch you throw, get strike one, and then it opens up your possibilities to do so many other things.
Going into not increasing velo, but how do younger kids or just kids in general, even your big leaguers? I saw that not Church, but Xavier Curry was talking about doing a lot of low reps, high weights, but also focusing on his shoulders. What are some recommendations on weights all season and in season for pitchers and position players just in general? Because at the end of the day, I know a lot of times we think that pitchers in general don't live because of arms. So what do you recommend just in general for pitchers lifting wise?
Well, I've always said the lower body you can kind of really go crazy on. You can do a lot of weight transfer, rotational lifting, lunges. You can do a lot of pistol squats, side lunges with your lower half, a lot of hip and pelvis and, hip flexibility and mobility drills, just so you can continue to make the middle part of your body flexible and strong. For me, I used to just do more rotator cuff exercises with lighter weights. I do a lot of wrist curls because I want to really incorporate a lot of spinning and, finger pressure, a lot of grip strength exercises for pitchers because you are trying to manipulate the spin of the ball to make the ball do different things. But I've always felt that a lot of bench pressing, especially as you got closer to the season, it kind of restricted your external rotation because you get tight in this area here. So if you saw that video I played earlier, when my foot starts landing and I start going forward, my arm lays back. This is where the energy is generated at. Most of the time, guys are throwing weighted balls. They're getting major external rotation, but they're adding so much load to the elbow. So I'm thinking that more rotator cuff exercises, more reps with lighter weight. I like to move them like not slow, but a little faster than normally been recommended because I'm trying to really emphasize the quick twitch motion in my arm, a lot of stretching. And most of all, I played long toss every day. 162 games in the big leagues, I probably played long toss 140 days. I just threw, stretched it out, brought it back in, played catch. And then as I got older, I started listening to my body more because what feels different, what's sore and what's an injury. And, you just got to pay attention to those things. But overall, for a high school pitcher or even a youth pitcher, being able to do a lot of kids do the bands, but they only do the bands right before they're going to throw. That can be almost a everyday exercise because it's not really adding a lot of force, but it does give you the blood flow to those particular muscles. It increases your flexibility. And then you can start doing the band work with like a 2-pound dumbbell, and that's going to get the muscles around the rotator cuff. So it's so many different ways to train, and there's so many good physical trainers out there that's helping these kids get stronger. And, guys are throwing harder. The majority of guys on every team is throwing harder. But why is pitching at the state that it's at, where guys don't? It's not the fact that they're throwing harder; they're just not pitching better.
For sure.
You know, a lot of guys been training to throw hard, and that's anything that you do and focus singularly on, then you're going to accomplish that. But baseball is pitching. It don't say now throwing; it says now pitching for so and so. So pitching is going to require a certain amount of finesse and power, and you got to bring those two things along together. So whatever exercises you're doing to keep you healthy, keep you flexible, keep your pitching arm strong, keep your body flexible, and keep your legs strong, do those. And there's so much research out there for that, and most of that stuff is available to everyone.
Wrapping up, what are different things for pitching, just say bullpen wise, making sure people go from the windup and the stretch? Do you see more guys are practicing just from the windup or from the stretch, or what do you see in that aspect?
Well, what I know for a fact is that you're going to spend 85% of your career in the stretch. You're going to face all your adversity from the stretch. Every big pitch that you probably going to throw is probably going to be from the stretch, unless the bases are loaded and you decide, hey, I'm going back to the windup.
Yeah.
But then you still in a high stressful situation. Even then, the stretch allows you to eliminate wasted motion. It allows you to start on a starting point with your back leg to move you at the same time frame to allow your arm to cooperate with what your brain is telling your body to do. So the stretch is so important to work out of, because again, like I said, you're going to be in the stretch when you're in trouble. You see a lot of starters, they're starting their delivery with a modified warm-up. They're starting almost in the stretch and they're taking a little jab step, because they know that the old rock and fires go back like they used to do back in the day. You look at some old videos of guys, man, they had to step back and get turned, and it's a lot going on there. It's a lot going on, and when you see them guys do it, they've been doing it for 20 years.
For sure.
When you get a young kid and he's doing all of this stuff and he hasn't even understood how his legs need to work in his timing of his sequence in his delivery, and he's wondering why he can't throw breaking pitches in critical situations for strikes, or why he can't command his fastball on the outer part of the plate, and he's making a lot more mistakes because his body is just a little bit out in front, then they'll start to understand the importance of staying in the stretch more when you're practicing. You don't lose velocity out of the stretch. Most people think I throw harder out of the windup, but what it is, you're giving yourself this false sense of momentum by gravity gathering onto you as you're falling, and it makes you have to speed up your arm. But again, it's going to take away from the precision of your fingers being right here to get this ball down the way versus them being right here because you're a little bit out in front, and now that ball is moving back to the fat part of the plate. So it's so many variables that go into what a guy does, and every one of them is individual to the pitcher, and that's why the pitcher needs to understand who he is and not just look at a big basket and say, I need to just grab everything out of here and make sure it's going to work for me, because some things you're doing already correctly, and it may change what you've been doing correctly to do something that somebody else is doing. So you got to find out who you are.
Any last things, any last tips? I think we covered a lot of good stuff, man. But any last tips that you want to give out that you've seen that, not that works, but that you've seen that need to be talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say this to everyone that's watching. No matter what you see on the internet, no matter how easy people say it's going to be, pitching is a tough position, not only physically, but it is mentally. So I say, take time, understand what you do wrong so that you can get it right. if you don't know what you're doing wrong, you're never going to get it right. You're never going to stumble upon something that's going to work specifically for you. So find out what you're doing wrong, practice it, and correcting these things in your bullpens, and take your time and understand who you are, and don't try to be a power pitcher with finesse stuff. Everybody wants to throw 100. Everybody want to throw 100. But sometimes you're just not built like that. Sometimes you got to take what you have right now, understand how to change speeds on it, understand how to control it, and then do the best job that you can in the game by competing. And once you get in the game, you can't be thinking about your mechanics. That's why it's important that you practice your bullpens at a pace that you can get a feel and you can get touch on what the pitches that you're throwing. I mean, I can't say it enough that the things that you do when you practice will have an effect when you get in the game and your thought process. And the mental part of the game has to be stressed as well. So you got to walk yourself through different scenarios when you're practicing, put yourself in different counts and situations, and then see if you can execute. And then do it a lot. Nothing that you wait on is going to come for you. So you got to go out there and get it. And you got to make sure you understand that when you're not working, those hitters they're working on hitting that pitch down the middle. And hitters make their money off mistakes. Pitchers make their money off being consistent and throwing and pitching ahead of the count. That's all I got.
Last thing, when you talk about mental, what your thoughts on people trying to, mentally understand pitching, and once they get in those situations and throwing strikes, do you contribute that to practicing trying to practice every scenario? So once you get in the game, you understand how to kind of get out of it.
Yeah, I used to go through this every time I threw a bullpen. When I know I'm wrapping it up, I would put myself in the toughest situation a pitcher could be in the game. Bases loaded, no outs, the best hitter coming up. I got to make this pitch right here. If I sink this ball right here, I'm going to get a double play ball. I'm going to get out the inning. I ain't going to give up no runs. It's 100,000 people watching. I've always tried to practice those scenarios so that when that time came, I wasn't overwhelmed by it. I practiced it so much and rehearsed it so much in my head. I had a place that I can go that's going to help me kind of maneuver and work through this situation. It might not work. But at least I'm not out there like a deer in headlights going, oh, man, I don't know what to do. At least I've practiced it internally enough to know that when it gets into the game situation, I can still focus on what I'm trying to do on that pitch, the pitch that I'm trying to make, and how I've made it so many times in practice that I can make it right here in this situation based off my thought process being positive, and then based off of the confidence that I have that it's going to work. And I always tell guys, you're going to get better the more you prepare. The more you prepare, the less you're going to be scared.
Man, we appreciate you, Marvin. How can everybody find you?
Well, I'm on all the social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, X, under Freeman Baseball. I always welcome any questions that pitchers may have, and especially and coaches as well, because some coaches they want this information, they don't have it, they don't know it, but there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking for information if it's going to help you help somebody else. Sure. And as a coach, that should be our only concern. We shouldn't have our egos involved to where we thinking this my guy, that's my guy. I don't know what you saying. What you saying don't agree with what I'm saying. Let's all come together and reach an agreement that our job is to help continue to grow the game, make it better for all the players that's coming up after us, so that they can have the same type of mentality when they get out of the game and keep this thing going along. Because, baseball gonna keep moving. It's gonna move with us or without us. So we all might as well move together with it.
I appreciate everybody tuning in, man. This will be recorded, live streamed on Minority Prospects TV. We'll clip it up and give these gems. Put it on all our social media platforms at MVP Takeover on all platforms, man. Again, we appreciate you, Mr. Freeman, for shooting out this knowledge, man, to these coaches, fans, and kids, man. We'll start doing a little bit more videos on pitching. So make sure you stay tuned, man. Make sure you follow Mr. Freeman on all social media platforms, man. And we appreciate you guys, man. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot, brother.
Man, appreciate you.